Hello and welcome everyone. Today I'm going to be doing a little closet Q&A. You guys asked me some questions over on Instagram and I'm going to do my best to answer everyone. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to bring to your attention an issue which I'm sure everyone has already heard about since it's affected so many cities all over. I am talking about the Black Lives Matter protests that are going on right now for George Floyd and the countless other people who have been victims of police brutality. So I'm not going to go too in-depth because I'm not trying to talk over anyone on this subject, but I would like to state that I am fully in support of the Black Lives Matter movement, and I will be putting the link to their website in the description of this video. If you can donate, anything helps. This isn't a political issue, this is a people issue, and I really believe that we are all in this together. We've got a lot of work to do, so I'm sending everyone extra love and extra strength right now. And now I am here to entertain, so let's get to the questions. Alright, Electric Ladyland, which is my friend Lady, she says, what is the oldest piece that you still wear regularly currently in your closet? I'm guessing she means like the oldest piece that I own, not necessarily like the most historical piece. I think she means just like something that I've had throughout my life kind of a thing, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so I think that the oldest thing that I own still and wear like regularly is this dress, which I've cut off the sleeves. I've mentioned it in a couple other videos. I think I've used it for like some styling things. So I wear this regularly. I still have some like t-shirts and like some shorts from when I was like a really little kid, but I don't really wear them. I kind of keep them for like sentimental things. So yeah, this is something that I still wear regularly. It's still one of my favorite dresses. It's from Forever 21 actually. Most of my other things that I've had like that were vintage that I got, I've changed a lot since then. Like my body has changed, so they didn't really fit me quite the same, so I've sold them over the years from that reason, and also because going after like freelance jobs, you know, sometimes you run out of money, and so luckily vintage clothes are worth money, so having vintage clothes has definitely saved me and helped me pay my bills sometimes. Okay, Connie McLean says, is there any item in your closet that you don't really wear anymore but you would never part with? And that is a really good question. Okay, two things that I don't really wear but I would absolutely never part with are my parents' jackets from like when they were younger. This is my dad's motorcycle jacket, and sometimes I wear it, but it's pretty big on me, so, and it's also actually really heavy, so it's not very practical. I have like a leather jacket that actually fits me right, so this I just keep for sentimental value. My dad was a biker back in the day, and then I have my mom's pom-pom jacket from high school. She graduated in '84, so that's around the year that this is from. And then my dad graduated in '91, so he's a little bit younger, but that's kind of the era that these are from anyways. Don't really wear them so much. I used to wear this a lot in high school, but just not too much anymore. They just kind of stay around for the sentimental value. Mall's Steph says, how many scars can the birch tree branch hold before the birch branch can't hold more? And that is an amazing question. Honestly, I'll have to get back to you on that one because so far, so good. We've had to use a little bit of reinforcement, but luckily there was already like something kind of meant to hold a dowel rod on that wall there. So we just stuck a little bit of paper in between. we got crafty, but this like shelf and then in between the wood so that it was really snug together. So far so good, but I don't really tug on it or anything, and I'm not gonna hang up clothes because I don't think that would end very well. Okay, Bethany, how long did it take you to get a 60s and 70s wardrobe? I'm gonna take it like you mean just that I can dress like 60s and 70s kind of style every day. I'd say it got to be more of a regular thing, like really just easy to kind of like pull in the 60s and 70s look from any of the clothes that I had. Around 20 years old. Okay, Grace says top 10 favorite pieces. Okay, I've compiled my top 10 favorite things, and this is in no order because I can't decide that. Also, this is like the summer version because I have winter clothes and I didn't really consider them in this because I don't want to pull them out since I just cleaned everything up if you have seen my last video. These black boots, which I just got pretty recently, but I've worn them a ton already. Black boots are like my go-to shoe, so I will want to be buried in these, just to note that. I feel amazing in black boots. I feel like they look cool with everything and add kind of like a badass touch to it. So then, to keep with the boot theme, I am a boot girl. These I've been loving as well, and I had been looking for white ones forever. And yeah, I can never find them in my size or in like good condition. So this was an amazing find. I'm very, very, very stoked. The black ones I got off of Etsy, and they are Sixties as well. No, the black ones I got off of eBay too, so both of those are from eBay. Then I have these glasses, which are like the exact same sunglasses that John Lennon wore in the Penny Lane. I don't know, it was some video. I'm gonna put up a little clip. They have like a detachable little visor thing here, and they're kind of like a dark green. I love the little hearts at the tips as well, so just like perfect details. Here's with the little visor on. So these I also got off of eBay. I've been loving eBay recently. This I actually got for 25 cents at a yard sale in my hometown, so it's got those sentimental values, and it's just like absolutely perfect. Like, this is something that I would wear every day if I could. And it's actually like a kid's vintage Harley Davidson shirt, I think, but I don't know, because it was like an older woman and it was all just her stuff that she was selling before. So I don't know, maybe she wore it too, but it's like really cool. It's like kind of distressed fabric. It's got some holes in it too, but it just kind of adds to the look. It's super comfy as well. Then these pants, which are from Sugar High Lovestone, but I bought them off of Depop. But Sugar High Lovestone was one of the first like 60s and 70s inspired brands that I had found when I started getting interested in the style. So I had always wanted something from them, and I was looking on Depop, just, you know, browsing for the heck of it, typed in Sugar High Lovestone, and they had the pants that I had been wanting forever, and they hadn't been worn. So yeah, that was really cool. Plus I added all of these patches on the back, and I just love a good patched up pants. These shorts, which I also have had since like high school, I got at H&M back in the day, and I will never part with these, I'm pretty sure. I always feel amazing in them. They're just like black basic shorts, but they're like a cute little 60s kind of go-go short. Then this is like a vintage go-go two-piece set that I got at the Volo Museum, which is like north side of Chicago, not even north side of Chicago, but like north of Chicago, pretty close to the Wisconsin border. But it's like an actual 60s go-go two-piece, and it fits, and I cannot wait until everything opens up and we can go out dancing, and I will definitely be wearing this as soon as that happens. This dress, which is actually from Grace's shop, who asked the question, my 10 favorite vintage items. I love the sleeves. I love, love, love the colors. This was actually sent to me, and they didn't put like their ad or anything or how to get a hold of them. So if you're watching this and you sent this to me, thank you so much. This is one of my favorite dresses ever. Again, the length is perfect. I love the little like flare skirt. Like, it's so fun to dance in because it moves really well. This is one of the first like true 60s vintage dresses that I got, and I was very stoked. I got it off of Etsy. It's like a green kind of paisley with a high neck. Okay, this is from Vintage Glamour Mama, Lizzie, love you. Your current fave outfit. I have been loving this combo that I did for the Sharon Tate lookbook, I think. And it's just this little vintage dress, and then I put this crop top underneath that has kind of like poofy white sleeves, and it just works perfectly under there. And then I'd probably wear some kind of like a cool green shoe with it, and I don't think I've done this before, but I think it'd look really cute together. So either with some little white socks or not, but I've been loving this combination of this shirt and this dress lately. Okay, Alyssa, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, I'm so sorry. Booze, I'm guessing? Your most magical item that you own. Alright, so this question is going to be left as a tie because I cannot pick between these two things. But this is something that I don't really wear as well, and I'm kind of just using it more of like as a decoration on the wall. It seems like upholstery fabric it's made out of, like the jacket, but it's kind of a velvet, and it's got these beautiful appliques all over it. I picked it up at Buffalo Exchange. Like the sleeves are insane, and then they've got like these little stars on each side, and then the back has this, which is so cool. And then inside of this as well, that I've just kind of been using as decoration, is a little corset that I got in Nashville, and it looks like early 1900s, I'd say. Maybe like a theater kind of a thing, but it's got these little stars all along inside too, which is super cool. So both of these tie is most magical. Okay, Magic Priestess says, what is one item in your closet you struggle to pair with stuff? And honestly, I know exactly what that is, and it is this. And I was so excited when I first got it. I found it at the thrift store, and I just have not found a reason to wear it yet, but it's super pretty. It's probably going to go in a bundle when I start selling them again. It reminds me a lot of like GTO's kind of style, like wearing nightgowns and stuff out. I think with like a little mini dress underneath, or like some shorts and like a flowy top, and just wearing this open with some heels would be cute. Lee Dahlia says, what is the oldest piece in your wardrobe? So I was originally gonna say that I think that vest is the oldest thing that I own, but then I remembered that I have these shoes, which I retired to a shoebox for someday when I can like have them on display or something. But these shoes, which I actually got at the Green Theater Costume Drive, which is something that theaters around Chicago will do, and they'll take like all of their old props and costumes and then donate them, and you can just go and pick them up for free. Like a lot of small artists or other theaters that maybe can't afford new costumes will go and kind of like look and see if there's anything that fits the plays that they're doing. So I went down, and there's like so many things, and I went with Olivia before she moved to LA. Sad, but I found these shoes for free, and I believe that they're 1800s. Like, maybe I'm wrong, but if somebody knows different, please let me know. I'd be super curious, but they're super cool. They seem extremely, extremely old. I wore them out maybe twice, but I don't really want them to get in any worse condition than they already are, because the side over here is kind of like really blowing out, you can see. So yeah, let me know if somebody knows for sure when these are from, but I think this is the oldest piece that I own. So we have an array of questions here from MK Dillard. How long did it take to change your closet into mostly vintage wardrobe? I kind of answered that before, and I feel like it was about 5 years. How old were you when you started collecting vintage clothing and items to build your wardrobe and style? I've always kind of been interested in like antiquing and like vintage stuff. I guess I never really thought about clothes until later when I first got into like 60s style and like recognized how cool it was, and that it was like a possibility for me to dress like that. So I've always kind of like been collecting vintage items. Clothes definitely started like when I was 15 is when I'd kind of like really keep an eye out, and anytime there were any clothes in an antique store, I'd go and look through them, whether they were 60s or 50s or from whenever. Between a rock and a hard pan, if you have any tips to get rid of musty smell in old clothes, especially old leather, since it can't be washed. Leather, I honestly do not know. It's a mystery to me, so if anybody does know in the comments, please let us know. As far as like the clothes, I've read, and I've been meaning to try this. I have never really had an issue with like musty clothes until recently. Just one thing that I got. It's a beautiful dress, and it has the original tags on it, but it does kind of smell. So I'm going to try to use borax and something else. I'll write it over here on the screen so that you guys can see, but I just found it on Pinterest. So again, if anybody else has like actual experience and knows, let us know, because this is just something that I'm planning on trying too. Okay, Saskia Gartshore, and I'm so sorry if I'm butchering anybody's names. They say, how did you come up with the name Devyn Crimson? Also, is there any advice you'd give to people who want to start dressing vintage? So Devyn is my original birth-given name. My parents named me Devyn. My grandma decided on the name, or had the idea for the name anyways. My parents were like, yeah. So that is how I got Devyn. And then before I was Devyn Crimson, like, as my username, I was Crimson and Clover. And I just, like, love that song, and I love Tommy James and the Shondells. So I decided on Crimson. I was kind of thinking something along the lines of Crimson and Clover and trying to be inspired by that, and I didn't really like the way Devyn Clover sounded, so I went with Crimson. Plus, I love the color crimson. Also, is there any advice you give to people who want to start dressing vintage? I say go for it. It's a lot easier said than done, but I think looking back, you're going to be happy that you did. And even if you don't continue dressing vintage like for the rest of your life, I think that it's like a good way to grow and to learn about yourself and to allow yourself to express how you feel at any given time. If you're nervous, I would say to maybe start adding like small elements of vintage fashion in and kind of like let it creep into your style, and before you know it, you're gonna feel like nothing. You're gonna forget that you look like anything. Like sometimes if I like see somebody looking at me in a weird way and I'm like dressed a little more outrageous than I am now, this is pretty normal, I feel like, but sometimes, you know, it's a little out there for some people, and a lot of times I just forget that I look different than anybody else. So I think that just comes with time. I say go for it, add little things in at a time. Ultimately, you just can do your own thing and make it your own style. What was the first vintage piece you purchased / received? Do you still have it, and does it still fit your style today? And that's from Ruby Moon Sister. I think the first like actual vintage thing that I got was this mirror from my great grandma, and it was when she was getting moved like from her house into the nursing home, and I remember we were all in there, and it was like a very vivid memory of her giving me the mirror and everything, and my mom telling how she used to be a kid and she would go into my great grandma's bathroom, her grandma's bathroom, and she would see that mirror always sitting on like the little side table thing, so it means a lot. It's hanging up in my room now, so I've held on to that, of course. As of clothes, I think I took a picture. I went back on my Instagram to try and see like what the first clothing item would be, and I think that it is this. I'll pop it up on the screen. It's like a 50s kind of a buttoned up blouse. It's pink with polka dots, and then it's got like a striped collar. So it doesn't really fit my style now, and I'm pretty sure that I sold it like a long time ago because of that, but I definitely like was interested in 50s fashion for a while, and I still think it's really cute. Julia Denezi says, tips on maintaining vintage clothes. I always struggle with mold since I live in an apartment without much sunlight. If you have any tips on that. And girl, I feel you. I do not have a lot of sunlight in this house. Definitely feel you on that. I would say maybe try to make sure it doesn't get like too humid in certain areas, because that's going to obviously introduce moisture to the clothing. For like winter clothes that I'm storing, I keep them in tubs, and I make sure obviously that everything's like dry and clean before I put it in there, so they're like lockable and sealable. Otherwise, I just try to keep them in like a cool room, which the house stays pretty cold since it's very shaded, and then they're just like in the front part of the house, so it is drier in here because there's not like the bathroom in this part of the house or any like running water or anything, so that probably helps. Also, keeping it out of sunlight. I normally have like the blinds closed in this room so that the sun doesn't really get in here, and that should help maintain them as well. Rosie Devon, first off, we have the same name, so that's amazing. Literally the same spelling too, unless your name is Rosie and your middle name is Devon, but still, same name, same spelling. Love it. Advice / inspiration for winter warmer looks with sweaters, jeans, coats, and such. So I pretty much get all of my inspiration from like Pinterest boards. I love Pinterest, and I find it really inspiring and very helpful for gathering like inspiration images. You could probably type in even on Google like 1960s like winter. I just do a lot of layering. I wear a lot of turtlenecks in the winter, like wearing one pair of tights and then another pair underneath. Helps to keep warm, especially when wearing dresses and such. And for like wearing jeans, I find it really helpful to wear like tall boots underneath in the wintertime, because then it's like extra kind of coating right there, especially if your pants are flared. You know, air can get up in between your leg and the pants. Defense 360 says, what are essential pieces to build a 60s wardrobe in your opinion? I would say mini skirts for sure if you're like a skirt person. If you're not into skirts, there are plenty of like pant styles. Like, there weren't super flared, I would say, in like the 60s until like the later 60s. Later 60s, 70s was getting more into like flare, but like kind of a straight leg. With like a little bit of a flare you'll see in like the mid-early 60s. So either of those are really good. Turtlenecks, I'll say, for the winter time are classic and can be styled in so many different ways. If you're a person who likes to wear dresses, dresses are great too. Wearing those with like tights or knee-high socks are really cute. One good pair of shoes, when I first got into 60s and 70s, I had one pair that I'd pretty much wear every single day, and they were like these T-strap white Mary Janes. They weren't even 60s, I think they were like 80s, but they just had like a low heel, a white classic T-strap. It definitely worked, and it gave off the 60s vibes in my opinion, because you really only need one that's like is a good basic and neutral that I think you could wear pretty much every single day. That's what I did anyways. And then tops with like collars are always good, like a big kind of a collar. It can be patterned, it can be plain, you know, but I feel like you can layer those under things. You can wear it buttoned all the way up, you can wear it kind of open, you can tie it up. There's so many different ways to style those, so those are another good like basic essential kind of thing to have. And then you could also like wear different coats over it or a vest. So those are some good basics anyways. Ken's Lena said, do you ever struggle with confidence when it comes to dressing vintage / the way you wanted? If so, how did you build the confidence to be the stylish queen that you are now? First off, so sweet, thank you. I definitely did, like, just going to school. I remember I kind of decided that I was going to start trying to dress 60s right after I moved schools in like states. So I was going into people who didn't know me, but I remember going to school the first day and I was like in kind of like a vintage inspired dress. I believe I had gotten it from ModCloth. But I remember going in and being like, oh my gosh, these people are gonna be like, why is this girl wearing a dress to school? But then thinking about it and really thinking about it now, it's like so funny to like question just wearing a dress, and like that dress was so kind of just like normal looking. It wasn't anything crazy, and to be nervous about that looking back now is just really funny. But I'm super happy that I did do it and that I just did what I wanted to, because I've continued to do that since, and I feel like it's really benefited me in a lot of ways, like just mentally and even like with my work now. Like if I hadn't started, who knows what I'd be doing for a job now. So I think just like thinking whenever you're feeling those feelings, like questioning why you feel like this, like does it matter who's seeing you? If these people's opinion does matter, like if it's like a job interview or something, I don't know, maybe do something that makes you feel comfortable, but also stay true to yourself a little bit, like adding something a little vintage in, because you obviously want to feel comfortable and confident, but I think it's important to kind of like step outside your comfort zone a little bit once in a while, but dipping your toes in can be a little easier than fully jumping in. What are some of my most worn pieces, Dizzy Miss Lizzie asks? I picked my top like 5 most worn pieces, and we've got this romper. Love it. It's super comfortable. It's got pockets. It's like one of the best airport outfits. It's like a stretchy cotton, very comfortable. It's cute with like a turtleneck underneath or just worn as is. So I really love this. These shorts, which I've already shown to you and explained my love for them, but I wear these with so many different things. They're like a go-to for me, for sure. This skirt from Worn Vintage, I love like circle button-up vintage skirts, and this one's really like a nice purple suede. These pants, which are from Wrangler Australia, they're the high bells, and they're like a classic light wash denim, and they have like a wide leg on them. They're very comfortable, very cute. And then we have this romper from Miracle Eye, which this, again, I love this like color palette. I love the marigold print that they have, and you can pretty much just throw this on, throw on some boots, and you look cute. Sorry if it's kind of getting dark too. I think I might turn on this light. Venetia Nasher, best reproduction vintage stores / brands that sell reproductions of 60s clothes. So I actually have a whole video on this, so I'm going to direct you to that because I give a really good detailed description of different shops. Tador Amar says, how do you maintain vintage clothes? I know some old fabrics are a bit hard to take care of. So most of the stuff, I feel like the polyester kind of stuff like that, it can take a beating. So that I just throw in regular wash, and a lot of times I'll just hang them up to dry. Pretty much all of my vintage clothes I don't throw in the dryer. Things that are really delicate, like that Harley shirt that I was showing you, how the fabric is kind of sheer and is already kind of ripping in certain areas, I wash by hand, things like that. If it says dry clean only and it's a thing that I can for sure only get dry cleaned because of a certain fabric on it or something, it's gonna go to the dry cleaner because I don't even want to risk it at that point. And then they said, what's some of the vintage clothes that you don't like and why? I don't know if I can think of anything off the top of my head that I don't really like. I feel like I can appreciate a lot of things just for what they are. There's not any certain style that I'm everything about that style is bad, or everything about clothes like that. Okay, Mod or Rocker says, what is the most outrageous or unique piece you have? So I think it might be this hat. A lot of my more unique things I feel are for winter. I have this long velvet black cape with these big kind of feathers around the collar, and then I have this one dress that is black and it's got some Lurex gold polka dots all over it too, and then around the cuffs and around the collar it has some beads and some metal coins. So that is also really unique, but that's put away for winter. So for my summer answer, I'm gonna say this hat. It's not very summery, but I feel it on cooler summer days, it's just kind of a cool statement piece. Actually, I was thinking about it too, and these are pretty outrageous and unique as well. These are some shoes that I got from Jeffrey Campbell last summer. They sent them to me, and they have a huge platform, huge heel. They're pretty easy to walk in, surprisingly. Brooke Danzer says, what made you first get into vintage clothing? Definitely the music first got me into it. I started getting into the Beatles and listening to them, then listening to other artists, and that's kind of how I found the style when I was looking at pictures and everything of them. Valentina Rabbit says, what do you wear under your short skirts and dresses? And if I want to wear something underneath, I'll normally wear spandex that I have from dance, or you would wear for volleyball, those kind of they're short shorts spandex, so they're tight, they're not bulky, they're not gonna show up under your dress really. Finian Faye says, what is an article of clothing that you find difficult to style? Something that you would want to wear but just don't know how to envision it, or something you can't currently put together. So this I kind of already showed. This is a similar question to another one. I showed this little thing earlier in the video, and I can envision it, so I don't think that's the issue, but it's just whenever I go out I don't feel drawn to it, kind of a thing. One thing that I haven't really been able to style really well, it's this vintage rain cape, and it's got these polka dots all over it, and it's really cool, but on it just does not look really cool. So I haven't been able to style it in a way that it doesn't look like I'm wearing kind of a plastic bag, you know what I'm saying? Okay, Spicy Joe says, what are some pieces that you have wonderful memories / stories attached to them? Like a scarf that seems so simple but holds emotional value. Love you so much. I love you too. Let's see, emotional value. Well, I have this jacket, but again, it's put away for winter. But it was something that I got while Andrew was on tour and I was with him in the Netherlands. So that is the first thing that comes to mind, besides things that my family has passed down to me, like my parents' coats, and then some jewelry from my great-grandma. This scarf I will forever associate with the Tommy James and the Shondells concert that Michelle and I went to. I want to say last summer, maybe last fall-ish, end of summer. This dress, which was another thing that I got very early on, when I got into vintage style. I also wore this on like one of Andrew and I's first dates. I think it was like the second date that we went on. And looking at these shorts always remind me of this time that Andrew and I went to, I think it was West Virginia for one of his shows. And it was just like a fun adventure riding in the van over with the band. We had a great time. And I stitched the stars on these pants, or shorts, on the trip there, and then like during sound check and everything. Okay, Haley Mabe _232 says, how can someone start a vintage collection on a tight budget? I'm a college student who loves to dress 60s and 70s, but can't afford a lot of really nice vintage pieces. My tip to you, just speaking from experience, what I did was just getting like little pieces over time. It is kind of frustrating because obviously you want to like express this new love for vintage style through what you wear, but personally I did just have to like slowly build up over time and kind of like look at my clothes in my wardrobe and try to imagine them in like a 60s and 70s way. It won't always come right away, but you'll like see a picture and you're like, oh, I can wear this that I already have in that kind of way if I style it like this. So looking at pictures can help you to realize that a lot of your clothes can already be styled like 60s and 70s. So that is number one cheapest way. Thrifting, of course, you can find some good affordable items. Again, looking at pictures will help you with this because you'll be able to recognize something in the store that could be styled in the 60s and 70s way easier and more quickly. Going on to like Etsy is what I first started doing, and I always set my price range. I always set it for like max $30, and then I'll type in like 1960s mini dress or like 1960s dress, because sometimes you can find even cheaper, better dresses like that maybe just need to be like shortened or something, which is a super easy thing to do. So I suggest if you're like on a budget and you want to dress 60s and 70s and you're like into dresses and stuff like that, or like skirts, learning how to shorten things and like do little repairs and stuff like that will help you to save so much money, because a lot of times a seller will be selling something cheaper just because it has like something that needs to be fixed on it and they don't want to do it themselves. Or if it's like a longer style of a dress and it's not like the quite, you know, kind of mini dress style that you're looking for, a little more youthquake vibes, shortening dresses can be super easy. I do it by hand. I've been giving a lot of them to Michelle now because she has a sewing machine. So thanks, Michelle, if you're watching this. But before that, or even sometimes when I'm just not feeling lazy, I will just do it up myself. And if the dress isn't too long and I don't have to cut it, I don't even. I just kind of like roll, put like a little stitch in one spot, a little stitch on the other side, and then on the front and back. And then I'll roll again, and then I'll do like a full little stitch. So it conserves the dress to its original form at least. But yeah, so that'll help you for sure. Pink is spelled with 2 I's and then O-O-N. When did you start dressing in vintage fashion? Were there any other eras or decades that caught your eye first, and why? So I definitely, even like among my like 60s and 70s phase, I loved like the 50s style, and sometimes I would like wear like a 50s style instead of a 60s style. And for a little bit I loved the 20s, not so much like trying to dress like it, but it was definitely like something more that I was looking for in style. It was a very short period though, so it didn't go very far obviously. Do you have pieces from other decades like 90s or Y2K that you work into your 60s outfits? From Hannah Taylor. And I definitely do. I love getting like 90s, does 60s or like 70s kind of a style, and a lot of Y2K stuff can be styled in like a 60s and 70s kind of a way too. I feel like that's another way that you can kind of get 60s and 70s style but in a cheaper way, because normally that vintage is a little less expensive than 60s and 70s stuff, or at least it's like a little bit easier to find since it's new. I don't know if it's still quite less expensive than 60s and 70s is now, just because there's like more of a want for that. I feel like it's kind of trendy to like dress in 90s and Y2K style right now. So maybe it's not as affordable anymore, but at least it's easier to find since it is more recent. Lauren Grace Daniels says, can you show us staple pieces you think are crucial to a 60s, 70s wardrobe? like maybe your 5 favorite staple pieces. Love you. Love you too, Lauren. Let me grab those for you. Top 5 basics to have for a 60s, 70s wardrobe, just basing off like my own style. Of course, if you're going for like a different kind of a style, they're gonna be different. But number 1, I would say a good belt. This one's actually Andrew's, but I have one exactly like it. And I got it pretty early on when I was dressing 60s and 70s. I found mine at Target, and it's literally the exact same as this, like black and just a square silver buckle. But I feel like it really can add a 60s look to a lot of things. Then a mini skirt of some kind. This one is 90s as well, which is a good example for our last question. This one I got thrifting, so just having like a good basic color mini skirt I feel like is good. Then mini dresses, of course. Gotta have like a good mini dress in there. This one is again like 90s or 2000s. I had Michelle shorten it for me, so it's a little more of like the mini length that I was looking for. So like a good basic mini dress that you could style with like a scarf in different ways, or different colored tights, or different colored knee-high socks, or different shoes. You know, you could change it up in a lot of different ways if you have good basics. This top, which again is another 90s thing, so I'm glad that I pulled these, but it doesn't even have to be floral or anything, but having just like a nice button up with a cool collar, any kind of collar really works. But if you find like ones that have kind of droopy dagger collars like this, or just like even kind of like a larger sized collar, like I was saying before, it could be like tied up, can be tucked in, could be buttoned all the way up, could be worn like kind of open with some jewelry or a scarf off to the side. So button up tops with a nice collar are fantastic. And then lastly, a good pair of jeans, because you never know when you're just gonna have like a day that you just want to throw on a pair of jeans and go. So whether they be like wider leg style or more of like a fit and flare. These ones are also from Wrangler, Australia. They're the high bells. Retro Hippies said, any advice on how to shop vintage during quarantine? eBay, of course. I've been using eBay a lot recently, actually. I had never really gotten too much into eBay until quarantine came around. eBay is fun because it's always kind of like a surprise hunt. You really never know what you're gonna get. I do love Etsy still. I really love Etsy sellers. I appreciate people who take the time to curate like really beautiful items for their shop and have like a specific vibe to their shop, so you kind of know what you're getting when you go into it. And of course, I love supporting small businesses, so Etsy is great for that. I also like following shops on Instagram, and I know that some will give you a discount if you buy directly from Instagram, like by DMing them, because Etsy takes a cut of everything, and other platforms do as well. Just kind of like the name of the game. Of course, they gotta make money in it too somehow. And then advice to like pile on to that, I guess, like have a measuring tape or know your measurements, like currently measurements, so that you make sure that what you get is gonna fit you properly. That's just important for like shopping online in general. Even sizes today, like one place will say 4, but then another place's 4 will be totally different, you know, so it's best just to do the actual measurements, I feel like. Okay, Paige A. Strickland says, hi, I'm moving soon. What are some good things to have for a 60s and 70s inspired room? Thank you so much, Paige. Moving. That's always fun. For a 60s and 70s room, so many different ways to style decor for like 60s and 70s. I would say have like some cool pops of color for like a 60s and 70s room. Little vintage like details that you can find like at a thrift store, like an old clock to hang up on the wall, or an old picture or something like that, or even just like art prints. I feel like can do wonders to like adding a vintage touch to a room. If you like frame a poster from an online artist, and there's like tons on Instagram. Boogie Child Vintage just sent me a bunch of prints actually, which I think I'm gonna put up here. So a pop of color, have some cool art on the walls, whether it be vintage or vintage inspired. Getting like a cool Afghan blanket for your bed would be cool, or any kind of like a cool groovy comforter, or like some throw pillows would be easy too. Varia says, if you could wear any piece every day for the rest of your life, what would it be? I think honestly it would be those little black shorts that I keep showing. I'm not even gonna go get them again because you already know what I'm talking about by now. But those little black shorts, and maybe this turtleneck. Also, where do you suggest to find good bell bottoms? Finding good jeans alone can be hard, and then adding thrifting onto that is another hard thing, specifically Wrangler, Australia. has a very cool style. I would say it's worth it if you're looking for like a good basic pair of jeans that you're probably going to keep for the rest of your life. Lauren, one of your first pieces you ever got that was 60s, 70s style clothing. First thing that I actually got that was like styled in a 60s and 70s way, I'd say was this mini skirt that I got at Forever 21, and it was just like a classic kind of navy blue mini skirt. It had these little pockets in the front and then a black band, and I wore it all of the time. Actually recently just gave it away in a bundle, so I hope they are enjoying it as much as I did. It was definitely like a classic for me. Celine_Scampy says, did you wake up one day and told yourself, okay, now I'm only wearing 60s and 70s outfits? If yes, why? It definitely was not like that. I just was like into this kind of music, like I was saying, and I was looking at pictures and I was like, these people look really cute. I'd love to kind of start dressing like this a little bit. So it was just what I liked. It wasn't like I'm only gonna dress 60s and 70s. It was just kind of the style that I was getting into. When I was shopping, those were just kind of like naturally the styles that I was drawn to. And it was definitely like a slow process. And how come so many of your friends and Andrew are into vintage too? So I think that's just kind of what we bonded over. Like, okay, so this phone that I'm recording with died, so sorry for the lighting change and probably angle change as well. I believe I was answering Celine's question, the second half, and I think that's just because that's how we bonded. Like normally when you're outside of like school, you kind of make friends through work, and since I work from home, I made friends from online, because like online's my kind of work, I guess, and also going out to like shows and everything, which also kind of was an extension of work. Like how I met people and how I saw the bands was online through my work and through other people. So I think it's just because it's like a common interest, but not all of my friends are dressed in 60s and 70s stuff. And then for a partner, I was obviously looking for somebody who is interested in the same things as I am, and not necessarily somebody who always dressed in 60s and 70s. That was kind of a bonus. And I don't think that he really realized that he dressed vintage before like I came along. He just kind of wore the clothes that he liked, which was like button-up shirts and like these Wrangler pants, which we now found are like 70s style. Grace Harpster asks, what is your favorite 60s and 70s inspired brand? That is so hard. Honestly, I don't know if I have a favorite because I like all different ones for different kinds of things. I might have to be biased and say my best friend Olivia's brand, Mind Flowers, which does super cool 60s and 70s inspired accessories. All the lonely people said, ever thought of sort of purging and selling some things that don't get much love? And I actually do that quite frequently, especially with bundles. I do keep things that are like super special to me or that I like am absolutely in love with, but anything that I don't find myself wearing a lot, that I'm not like attached to or anything, I normally will put in a bundle, bring back to the thrift store, or if it fits one of my friends and they love it, they can have it as well. And my younger sister, if it's in her style, but she's not super into like vintage, but she likes some retro inspired stuff, so I always keep her in mind as well. Okay, vanilla.bino says, has your style evolved from when you first started to currently? And absolutely, I feel like I always hope to be evolving in like some form. I actually made like a short little clip, and I'll put it up here, of some of my photos from like my very beginning stages of Instagram till now, and it's kind of like a fun little transformation, so I'll let that play. What are some basic alterations you can make to blend clothes to make them look more 60s and 70s, says Miss Bella Tigris. And definitely like shortening a dress to be like more of a mini length can help. I've said that I've done that to a couple dresses, like for example like this one, like I was saying earlier, it's kind of like a dark denim style dress. And then this one I also shortened, or had Michelle shorten really. This one I did shorten a little bit as well, that green one from the beginning. This one I did too. So just shortening a lot, even when they are vintage, sometimes they're not quite like the mini length that I'm looking for. So I short them a little bit. A lot of times, like I said, I don't cut the fabric if possible, you know, just to kind of keep it, and that way maybe later on in life I'll want to take it down a little bit. If you have like pants that you would like them to be a little more flared, I know you can like cut them from like the hem on the outside of the leg, and then you can add in another kind of a fabric, and you could do like something cool, like a different color or a different pattern or something, and you could make them into flares. Stella K says, what are your biggest inspiration sources for your look and how often do you shop? I pretty much just like to browse online, and a lot of times I'll like favorite things, and I necessarily won't buy something right away when I favorite it, but when I have like extra money or I like want to do a little retail therapy, I'll like go online, and if I'm still in love with those pieces that I favorited, then I'll buy like something in there, unless it's like a, you know, great deal that I have to snatch up right away. I like to kind of sleep on it a little bit to make sure that I really like it. So I kind of just shop whenever I have the money to and want to spend money on something. It's not really like I shop every week or like once a month or something like that. I kind of just like pay attention to my finances and be smart, you know. One of my biggest inspirations for my looks, definitely Pinterest. Like I was saying before, I find a lot of really good photos on there. Also Instagram and just like other people that I follow are very inspiring. Okay, Bam Sedotir, that's definitely not right. The question is, absolute favorite worn to death piece of clothing ever. I know exactly what that is. This isn't necessarily clothing, but I'm gonna count it because it's in the wardrobe, and it's my first ever real pair of vintage shoes. That's not true actually. I had some other ones, but they weren't my favorite. These are the white shoes that I wore every single day for a long time. Not the ones that I was telling you about originally. This is like what I was going for with those other like white T-strap shoes that I think were like 80s or 90s that I wore in high school. These I bought after high school, and I wore them every single day for a long time actually. Pretty much right around when I met Andrew is when I kind of stopped wearing these because they were getting really bad. They don't look too bad honestly in the camera, but in person I promise you it's a lot worse. So I'm hoping to get them fixed someday because they are my absolute favorite. Rebecca_Carolyn04 says, what was the inspiration for your style? So I think rock music from the 60s and 70s mostly, but I really can like a little bit of every decade honestly. I grew up listening to like the classic rock channel on the radio station, which is just like classic kind of 80s, 70s, you know, music. It wasn't really like 60s or anything. I think that's more considered oldies. So I kind of grew up listening to that, and that's always what my dad would listen to on the radio as well. So just rock music in general, which kind of led me to what I really love, which was my all-time favorite in 60s and 70s rock music. And then how can others find their vibe? I would just say go after what your heart is drawn to. Like, it sounds so corny and cheesy, but honestly, like, listen to your heart and what you like, because you obviously know yourself more than anybody else. And it takes a lot of like experimenting just to like find what sits right with you, and I think it's something that kind of comes as you get older too and you get to know yourself more. So I think it comes with age and with just trying things out and being willing to try things out as well. You know, you have to kind of be open to that and open to new things that might not always work out, but you learn from them. So that is just how life goes, and honestly, it's a beautiful thing. Okay, Kitty from the Moon says, how do you create an outfit? To create an outfit, I'll normally, and if anybody has like been to my house and you've like seen me get ready, or you've got ready with me, you know that I like will walk around to each part where I have clothes. So like in that closet and here and then in my bedroom, and I'll just like walk back and forth and I'll look through everything and I'll look, and it usually is not a quick process. I'm not a speedy person. I'm very indecisive, honestly. And so I'll walk around and I'll like look through things, and I'll look and I'll try to get inspired, and whichever piece calls to me first, or color or something like that, whatever I'm drawn to is what I'll grab, and then I'll try to like build an outfit off of that. And normally I try to like look at things in a new way. it just makes me feel good when I can do that. So it's kind of like a self-care thing in that way, is to like exercise my creativity, I guess, or at least try to. So it is a process, and sometimes I'll try something on and I'll just be not feeling it, so then it's like back to square one. So pretty much just finding something that's calling to me first, and then working off of that with other pieces and then accessories until I feel good about what I'm wearing. Charlie Lily says, what is the showstopper in your wardrobe? The one with the most glitter and sparkles. A whole lot of love. A whole lot of love to you, Charlie. Let's see. I'm gonna have to go with this dress, which I just got pretty recently. And it's a 60s mini with like silver lurex, and then it's got a matching belt which goes along your hips down here, and it's super cool. It's like if Jane Birkin had to go to space, this is definitely what she'd wear. You know, it's very practical for space, so. And that's actually the last question. Holy cow. I tried to skip repeats and like comments that weren't necessarily questions, but I might have skipped over a question in the process of doing that. So if I skipped over yours and it wasn't a repeat, I'm so sorry. Thank you to everybody who asked a question. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please consider checking out the link down in the description and donating if you can, citing petitions if you can't donate, protesting, be safe. I'm sending love to you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.